Hi everyone, Corey here. Before we get to the show, I want to inform you of a recording incident. Part of one of the articles I was reading got messed up and was unfortunately unrecoverable, and I had to cut that part of the article out. You can read it in the show notes. It's the article by Alicia Judge at IGN called Gambling Laws Appear to Block GTA Online Update in Over 50 Countries. Sorry for the inconvenience, and enjoy the show. Thanks. Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of the BigSlice Gamescast. I am your host, Corey Stroby, and with me again, I have Jessica.
Hello.
So it's been a relatively uneventful week as far as news goes, at least in the industry. So
Which isn't necessarily
we don't have too much.
thing.
What's that? What did you say?
I said it isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, not necessarily a bad thing. It's just been kind of slow. Okay, well, the first thing that we have is GameStop reportedly lays off over 50 amid ongoing restructuring. This comes from gamesindustry.biz from the 1st, which would have been 5 days ago. Would have been last Thursday. So this comes from gamesindustry.biz from that day. This is by Rebecca Valentine. It says, in the midst of a challenging year of low sales, organizational restructuring, and a failed attempt at a company sale, GameStop appears to have laid off over 50 of its field leaders as it tries a new model of region and district organization. According to an internal memo shared on Twitter, GameStop has reorganized its field regions and districts in a money-saving attempt to bolster its business. The restructure cuts a number of districts, effectively folding them into others, however, resulting in the former leaders of those districts seeing their positions eliminated. So the full text of the tweet, I'll put an actual link to the tweet so you can see it on Twitter in the show notes in the YouTube description, but I'll read it here. The whole tweet says, "We have important news to share with you today concerning the redesign of our field leadership team. As part of our continued GameStop Reboot Transformation Initiative, a dedicated team, including the retail vice presidents, HR, LP, and the U.S. store operations leadership team, have been working diligently to realign our current field regions and districts in an effort to reduce our cost structure and build efficiencies into our field leadership organization so that we can reinvest in the business. This realignment results in an expanded size of GameStop's regions and districts, therefore reducing the number of field leaders required to run the organization. The realignment also allows for a reset of the GSL reporting structure, enabling these new multi-unit leaders ownership in their span of control. More details to come on the GSL process. Unfortunately, with these changes, there are more than 50 field leaders who have been impacted and will be leaving the GameStop team. This includes regional, district, HR, and LP leaders. These leaders will be missed, and we wish them success in their future endeavors. These decisions are not easy, but necessary to help us reduce costs to enable investment in revenue-driving initiatives that will help grow the business once again. There's more work to be done to streamline the number of tasks for our field leaders and provide tools to support their daily activities. This work has already begun and will continue moving forward." So that kind of sucks for them. I mean, I get
so what
that
it sounds like to me is this is, I mean, and I could be wrong, but what it sounds like to me is they got rid of a whole bunch of higher ups who brought in a good salary and got rid of them, and they're going to maybe bring in a bunch of millennials and pay them nothing so they can get the business going again.
And maybe that's probably part of it, because the higher ups would obviously have quite a big paycheck, but it sounds like those positions themselves are just being eliminated. So it's like they'll probably replace those positions with more underpaid people lower.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kind of like what you were saying, bringing in younger people and not really having to pay them as much as, the field leaders did. But it sounds like those positions it said resulting in the former leaders of those districts seeing their positions eliminated, so that like they're not even rehiring for those; they're just gone.
Right.
Because they are shrinking their I guess their district sizes, or they're streamlining them. But the tweet actually has a map, like like the tweet itself wasn't like an actual tweet. It was oh, I forgot I had the link actually on there. It's like an actual picture of the districts, and you'll be able to see what I'm actually looking at. I can share it on the Discord, or if you have the podcast topics open, it should be internal memo. I'll share it on Twitter, and you guys will have anyone listening will have access to that in the show notes, or the YouTube description.
Okay, look at the map. All right.
It's like the west, southeast, and northeast districts are like folding in on themselves or something. Like you can see that there's a map of a bunch of different districts, all highlighted in different colors. And I think what they're doing is they're going to change that and have like 3 massive districts rather than all of these sub districts, and then have higher ups kind of be in charge of those bigger structures rather than having a bunch of smaller ones, which I'm not sure how they do that, but that's what it at least sounds like. I don't know that much about that business, so it's like that's just kind of what I'm thinking.
Kind of confusing.
Yeah. If anyone,
but I mean, if it sucks. I feel for the people who lost their jobs. That sucks for sure, especially for being a higher up. But I am very curious to know if there's any listeners or anyone who knows anybody
who knows,
who can give us more information, because I'm just curious to see how this is going to work out and what their plans are.
It sounds like it's more or less part of the whole restructuring process that we've talked about on a couple episodes of the podcast that GameStop is trying to do. But I think this is a little bit more businessy than the previous topics. It was more just about, okay, what are their plans? Now this gets into the actual business side, and it's a little over my head, but I thought it'd be worth sharing. So if anybody knows more about it.
I'm starting to, they're getting rid of field reps, right?
Yeah.
So the field reps don't really have that many decisions when it comes to GameStop's actual overall big picture. So I don't see how getting rid of field reps is what's going to help change the actual construct of GameStop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like they would have to change something like high up, like VP and CEO, stuff like, people who actually have those groundbreaking decision-making abilities.
Right. Yeah.
This just sounds like a way to save them money. I don't think they're actually going to do anything.
Yeah, and this wasn't meant to be like a huge topic or anything. I just thought it was worth talking about because it is more on GameStop's plans. I think anyone,
and along with their upcoming their little game arena area thing.
Yeah. But if anyone listening knows more about this or is a little bit more educated on this whole thing, feel free to email us at bigslicegames@gmail.com. And if anyone has a little bit more details on this, then we can read them on the podcast next week. Just anyone who breaks it down a little bit more, I think will be a little bit more helpful. But I thought it was worth bringing up just because it is more on the whole GameStop story. And it was just more or less just reading from the tweet that was leaked out, or that plan that was leaked out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was taken. That picture was taken inside a GameStop. So like one of the workers was like, "What?" Shared
Yeah,
it.
and just decided to share it. It's straight up off of a computer in the GameStop store. Like someone just pulled it up and shared it.
Yeah, like they got their email and shared it. Yeah, because you can see in the bottom left corner it says GameStop, and then of course you see all the merchandise in the background. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I thought that was funny too. And it's like that's straight up in the store. Like someone just pulled it up and then took a picture of it and posted it online. Yeah, there really wasn't anything I had to say about it. It was just more or less just, hey, this is happening. If anyone knows how to break this down a little bit more, cool, that would be helpful. Email me and maybe we can have you on the show if you know a little bit more about this and we can have a deeper discussion on it. But if not, then hey, this tweet's out there. You can go find it.
That works.
Yeah. All right, we can move on to the next topic. This one's a little bit more exciting. Anyone who's been following No Man's Sky or is still playing it, this is an article from Kotaku. Not so much an article, just more an announcement or a heads up. But it says No Man's Sky fans have been anticipating the latest in a string of massive free updates titled Beyond since it was announced in March. Hello Games co-founder Sean Murray said at the time that the update would be quote, 3 major updates rolled into one larger free release. Though we know that one of these updates is going to be No Man's Sky Online, a new approach to multiplayer, and the second is VR support. The third remains a mystery. The enigmatic new trailer is probably not going to answer many questions. So did you actually see the trailer by chance?
I saw like a quick 20-second video, and basically it was like some really kind of like a Tron looking place, and then it went into just like saying Beyond No Man's Sky.
That's it.
Okay, so I didn't know there was anything else. Okay.
Nope. That's
it.
It
Was more of like a teaser.
That's what we have to look at, and I don't even know what to think about it. Like it's almost like that initial excitement for No Man's Sky kind of was re-sparked by just like the mystery of, oh, what is this? What could this be? What could it mean? And especially with how well No Man's Sky has been delivering on its empty promises of 2-3 years ago, what they've been delivering in the last few years, I feel like has really put the trust back into Hello Games and their ability to fix what they promised before.
Yeah, they learned their lesson for sure.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm excited beyond the No Man's Sky being in VR is pretty much the thing that's going to sell VR to me, because it's like I want to be able to look out of my spaceship in real time and look down and see literally a planet-sized planet below my ship. And then there's whatever this third thing is going to be. You know, we're getting better multiplayer, which I've seen a little bit of gameplay on. I think Game Informer covered it. IGN covered it. A few people covered it, and there's like videos and stuff.
Yeah, it's not quite like an MMO, but it's kind of venturing that way, I think.
Yeah, it's like I think it kind of is an MMO, but at the same time, it's like its own branch of MMO. Like it has the same connectivity, but not the overarching story that an MMO would have. At least not what I've seen. It's more like a shared world.
But I mean, it's been a little bit since I've played No Man's Sky, because when we did pick it up, I think something else came out, so our attention got shifted. But wasn't there there was multiplayer like local, because I was playing with my husband. I know that. So what are we going from to now, I guess is my question.
I think it's mostly just like a revamped multiplayer. So like you can play online with your friends. Everyone can just join in your game. and show up on the same planet as you, and you can group up and walk around and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So you're
you
going
can
from
work
friends
together.
to strangers then?
Yeah, I mean, I've played with a stranger before. Like someone randomly showed up, or they joined my game or something, because
Okay.
I must have had hosting on, but some new guy came and just showed up in one of the solar systems that I was in, so I just walked over to him, and like neither of us had a microphone connected or anything. I don't even know if that's. No, you should be able to. I think you can use a microphone, but either way, we weren't using microphones. And I was just kind of showing him the ropes, like pointing him, like, "Hey, go over there, check that out," or "Hey, you can find more of this here." I think he was looking for Heridium or something for his ship, because he had just started, so he still had the crash landed ship and was just looking for stuff to fix it up. So I was just kind of pointing him in that direction, tossing some stuff at him, just like, "Hey, here you go, have this." Other than that, he just kind of wandered off and did his own thing. But I did run into someone who decided to come into my game and just did nothing but spawn kill me the entire time. So I turned hosting off, and
people
he got
like that suck.
I know.
Like people like that are what ruined son of a nutcracker. The new game where you were a pirate. It ruined it for me. I can't remember what it's called right now, but it ruined it for me.
Remember what the game was like?
God, what was it called? I'm gonna look it up right now because this is gonna drive me nuts. Sea of Thieves. That's what it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because like
That's
when we first heard about
haven't
Sea of
played yet.
Thieves back in the day, because it was an older one. Yes, it's 2015. When that first came out, when we were first looking at it, we're like, "Oh my gosh, it's so cool! You get to be a pirate. You can play with your friends. Go find, go collect some booty, all that kind of stuff." And booty is in treasure. I used the pirate term, and I realized that you could think of it as something else. But yeah, it was like all these cool things, and then you'd like go back to different islands. Super cool game. Like the idea is amazing, and then it's like you can play with all these strangers, and then people just became jerks, and they just kill you and take all your stuff, and all the hard work you just did is gone to crap. Or they can find you in the middle of the ocean and start a battle with cannons. Like, I'm just trying to get something done, guys. So it just kind of like ruined it because people are jerks. So that's probably what happened with you with No Man's Sky.
Yeah, well, I mean, I mean,
not quite as much.
So it was like, oh no, he straight up he came into my solar system or wherever I was, and I was just kind of exploring something. I was actually exploring something relatively dangerous. It was like an infected little hut or whatever, and like if you shoot, and there's these like alien looking eggs, and if you shoot one, then they hatch and a bunch of little aliens come out.
Yep, those things attack
They
the
are
crap
really
out of me.
yeah. They are super frustratingly difficult. And this guy just showed up and started shooting at me.
Oh,
and it's
nice.
like, all right. So this guy seeked me out and then killed me. And anytime I tried to get back to my ship, he would do it again.
What?
So it was like I would respawn somewhere. I don't even remember.
Online bullying via video games is real, people.
Yeah. But either way, I was trying to get back to my ship, and every time he killed me, my grave would pop up like 20-something feet from my ship. So I'd have to go over and grab my stuff and then work my way back to the ship. Yep. Meanwhile, he's trying to kill me that whole time. So it's like every time he'd kill me, I'd only be a few feet closer to my ship. And that went on for like 20 minutes before I realized, oh, I'm hosting him. I can just disconnect him. So I did that, nice. And then he was gone. I didn't realize that I was hosting. I thought I was playing on like, I didn't know I was like actively online.
Right.
So it took me 20 minutes to realize that, oh, I'm hosting him. I can just disconnect. So I did that. It's like, wow, this whole 20 minutes could have been avoided. But either way, that's something that can happen. And if someone's doing that, then you can just kick them from your server or whatever. But still, that stuff can happen now. Or just some random dude who decides to fly in and help you while you're shooting out pirates. that also happened to me. I was getting killed by pirates flying around, and they were kind of taken over, or they were kind of overtaking me, and some dude just flies in and starts shooting them with me. I was like, hey, thanks, man. Yeah.
The Superman of the space world.
Yeah. It's just Han Solo coming in with the Millennium Falcon at the last minute to save the day. But yeah, so it's kind of a new approach to multiplayer, and they have it detailed in the article a little bit more. If it's going to let me open, I can find the details on it. You'll hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay. Just a little hiccup there. But yeah, it's a free update. So if you have No Man's Sky, this is just going to update on your game, and you're going to have access to it. So if you have VR, you don't have to buy anything new.
Which is nice.
Like if you
it's
already
nice when you don't have to buy something that looks this big.
Right. So here's a quote from Sean Murray on the multiplayer. So it says, since the next update, players... Oh, sorry. This is from a Kotaku article. No Man's Sky is getting a new multiplayer experience. This is from... this is back from March 15th. But it does detail kind of the multiplayer a little bit. But I'll read straight from a paragraph in this article. It says, since the next update, next being the name of the previous update. Since the next update, players have been able to play online with each other as they expected to be able to at the game's release. However, the game still lacks features like a messaging system and a friends list, which would make the communal aspect of the game easier. Murray wrote that Beyond will have, quote, many recognizable online elements. These changes are an answer to how we have seen people playing since the release of Next, and is something we've dreamed of for a long time. So it sounds like there are going to be better community style features. So possibly a messaging system of some kind, some friends list, if one's not already in there. I haven't played in a while, so I can't actually answer to that. It's been a couple months since I've actually played. But it does sound like it's going to have better communal aspects, better maybe a messaging system or anything like that, maybe a friends list. But Beyond comes out on the 14th, which is sometime next week, I think.
Yeah, the 10th is Saturday. So
yeah, so
Tuesday,
it'd be
Wednesday.
Next Wednesday is when the update hits.
Yeah.
Yeah,
next Wednesday.
But that's probably something I'm going to check out. I might get back into that. I might still be playing Assassin's Creed though, which I'll talk a little bit more when we talk about what we're playing. But yeah, the new No Man's Sky stuff, I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, if this game can really grow to what they initially wanted, I mean, that'll be really cool for them.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what multiplayer elements they're actually talking about, because Sean Murray didn't really detail anything. He just kind of said it was something that you'd see in a lot of online games, which is safe to assume it's going to have some kind of communal features like a messaging system or a friends list, or even microphone support if there's not already that. Yeah. Did you have anything else to add on that?
No, it just kind of looks like Tron World like, which I dig. So
that was actually
what it actually is will be interesting.
Yeah, that was actually the other thing I wanted to bring up. I totally forgot about that. Is that trailer? Mm-hmm. It does look kind of Tron-like you said, which is kind of what No Man's Sky's aesthetic kind of was to begin with. But it's like, this is a whole big thing. Like, I don't know what this could be. Like, what if it's like a city of some kind?
That would be, if you went to a world and it was already established and civilized or something, that would be weird.
Yeah. And there's some stuff like that, but it's like they're not cities, they're just like buildings here and there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's like things from other explorers, but there's not like you said, like a city.
Yeah, like an actual community. There's just like hubs,
Mm-hmm.
like scattered throughout all the planets on all 18.4 quintillion planets, which is the actual number. You can look it up. There's like now actual civilizations. There's ancient civilizations, but it's like, all right, the ruins are cool, but once you've seen the same ruins over and over again, it's like, all right, this isn't interesting anymore.
Right.
But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what that actual teaser is for. Like, it'll be interesting to see what that means.
Mm-hmm. Especially because I'm just looking at a still of it right now. There's like that giant thing of light. It kind of reminds me of like the reactor thing that Tony Stark uses.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. I just kind of like, it's called Beyond. So there's a lot of ways that this could go, but my imagination's like, oh, what if you have to like go inside something to get to this place? Or I don't know. There's so many things it could be.
Yeah. And Beyond, I'm not even sure if Beyond would mean anything, because No Man's Sky Next was just, okay, here's the next thing for No Man's Sky.
Like, next.
It was just big. Yeah. Next. Okay, now we're going Beyond next. It's like, cool, we'll call it Beyond. Or, yeah, Beyond could mean something more.
The world may never know until August 14th.
Next week, we'll find out. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on that.
No. Well, this will see what happens.
Okay. So getting into somewhat larger topics. This one comes from gamesindustry.biz from the 1st. This would have been last Wednesday. Right? Last Thursday, excuse me. Ninja departs Twitch for Mixer exclusivity deal. This comes from Rebecca Valentine over at gamesindustry.biz. So popular Fortnite streamer Tyler Ninja Blevins has announced today he will no longer be streaming on Twitch, opting instead for an exclusivity deal with Microsoft's Mixer platform. Ninja said on Twitter, quote, "As of today, I will be streaming exclusively on Mixer. This is a really good chance to get in touch with my roots and remember why I got into streaming in the first place. Of the 3 largest streaming platforms for games, Twitch, YouTube, and Mixer has lagged behind the other 2, but has still seen consistent growth. Last quarter, Mixer netted 119 million hours watched, up 37% year over year, according to Streamlabs. Twitch, which far outstrips it at 2.7 billion hours watched last quarter, has nonetheless seen its growth dip somewhat as Fortnite viewership has declined over the last year." So this is interesting because Ninja is easily one of the most watched streamers in the world.
Yeah, one of the biggest names for sure.
And I think it's cool that he, of all people, is as big as he is because he just seems like a pretty down to earth guy who doesn't get himself into a lot of trouble, which unfortunately is a pretty big trend, especially over on YouTube, or at least it was for a little while. I don't know how popular. I'm not going to get into the Paul brothers or anything, but like, YouTube has definitely seen its share of
YouTube now is completely different than it used to be. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Considering, yeah, exactly. Like one of the brothers just had like a possibly real or fake, no one knows, wedding last week or something like that. So I don't know.
Who knows if it's real or not anymore. At least you never know when it comes to those two, but
right.
I mean, Twitch has seen its share of not so great people too. I mean, you heard about Dr. Disrespect, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Do you know who that is?
Sounds familiar.
He's mostly, I think he's mostly a PUBG guy. I could be wrong. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But he was I guess he has this, I forgot his real name, but his character is Dr. Disrespect, and his whole shtick is like being rude and disrespectful while streaming, or he has this shtick where he's just an asshole pretty much.
I mean, it comes with the name, I guess.
Yeah, which, I mean, I get that you're playing a character, but at E3 he ended up live streaming from the E3 bathrooms, which is both a violation of...
Oh, I did hear about that.
Yeah, it was a violation of
like privacy.
Of the E3. Yeah, it was a violation of the E3 stuff, I think. And it was definitely a violation of the terms of service of Twitch.
Yeah.
So it was funny
I did
because
hear about that.
Yeah, it's funny because a friend of mine and I ended up on his video, his E3 video. Like he actually, I'm pretty sure he looked at us and it was just like, "Hey, look at these guys." That was it. That was part of the video, I guess. I was like,
look
all
at
right.
these guys.
we were just walking. We were walking to one of the buildings, and we just happened to be on camera. But it was funny. We walked by him a couple times, and then we just kind of went our separate way. And then an hour later, I opened my phone to headlines of him being escorted out by security because he was live streaming from the bathroom. So he was stripped of his E3 pass and was banned on Twitch for like a week or something. But
That's what you get for being a dummy.
Yeah, which I get that it's your shtick, but come on, there's a time and a place for being in character, and it wasn't that.
No.
But that's kind of off topic. But anyway, so yeah, Ninja is taking an exclusivity deal with Mixer, which I don't actually have the number that he was paid for that.
No, but I'm sure it was a very high amount.
So, according to .esports, he took a conservative approach, and he wait. I'm not sure who they're talking about here. Hold on one second. I have an article here that actually has that it's going to open. So this is from .esports from 4 days ago, as of this recording. It says he was one of the most watched channels on the platform with millions of followers and tens of thousands of subscribers, with an estimated total earnings of $10 million in 2018. That's from his actual Twitch career.
That's insane.
Whoops. I don't actually know how much he was paid.
I don't think they
saw
released
8
that
million
information
somewhere. So I'm not sure if that's accurate or if that's...
He was paid $8 million just to come on the Mixer, or he was paid...
That's what it sounds like.
Because if that's not even for your working, if that's just like a sign-on deal, then that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it'd be a sign-on deal, and it would be him becoming an exclusive Mixer. So he has to actually say goodbye to Twitch.
Right.
By taking that deal, which I'm not sure. I've never actually streamed on either one, so I don't know what the difference is between Mixer and Twitch. Like, what would be worth leaving Twitch?
Well, I thought Mixer was a thing with just Microsoft because that's all over Xbox. Like, if you want to stream from Xbox, you have to do it on Mixer. So I thought it was just a Microsoft thing, which it could be. But if he's playing anything that's not Microsoft, I don't know how that would work. Yeah.
Well, I know. Yeah, Mixer is Microsoft's thing, and they had like a party or something at E3. I didn't actually go to it, but the group that I was with went to it, and they said it was pretty awesome, or at least the party was. but that doesn't really attest to what the platform is. It's just more or less just advertising the platform itself. But that's something, I'm sure that's something to look into, is like what exactly is Mixer? Like what's the difference between that and Twitch? What makes Mixer worthwhile to jump over to from Twitch and taking an exclusivity deal?
I think Mixer is supposed to be easier for streamers. So there's less work that has to go into it when it comes to just, I guess, streaming and video capturing and all that stuff. However, as someone who watches streams every now and then, I feel like Mixer isn't as easy to watch as it is with Twitch.
So it's like,
yeah.
So you still prefer you prefer watching Twitch over watching Mixer?
Yeah, and I know my husband prefers to, like, if he does stream, which you can find him at Surrender if he ever does. But when he does stream, like, he also prefers to use Twitch, whether it's Xbox or a PC game. It he just says, like, I think he said that Mixer was too laggy or something. Maybe it was too laggy. I can't remember exactly. He used it once. He was like, nope.
So there was like a considerable amount of latency between that versus Twitch.
I think so.
But
not that he doesn't like when, because like when he streams on Twitch, like he does actually have it so there is a 15-second thing of latency. Like he does prefer that, but I think that's the other thing, is that Mixer doesn't allow for as much customization too. I don't know. I'd have to look more into it.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting, because with him being such a big Twitch streamer, for him to actually leave the platform, they must have offered him quite a bit. And if he is exclusively on Mixer, maybe he can do something with him being as big of a name as he is. Maybe he can do something with the team at Mixer to help improve that platform, to help it get past Twitch. I think with him even being on the platform itself, just him being on it is probably going to help it grow significantly.
Oh yeah, I mean, for as many followers and stuff as he had, for sure it'll help. I don't think it'll help necessarily as much as they hope, but it will help.
Yeah. Yeah. Not really a whole lot else I wanted to talk about with that. It was just a kind of interesting, because it could change how streaming, or it could significantly change the streaming side of the industry if things go well. Yeah. So that's definitely something to watch out for. Yeah. All right. So this next topic, this broke out over the weekend. So the ESA accidentally leaks personal details of journalists, YouTubers, and analysts. This is by Christopher Dring over at gamesindustry.biz. And this is kind of a big one. Well, at least a big topic. It says, the private details of 2,025 games industry journalists and video producers have been leaked online. The list was accessible via the website through a download link. Organizers in the Entertainment Software Association told gamesindustry.biz that they, quote, regret the occurrence and have removed the link. The list includes names, publications, home addresses, email addresses, and phone numbers of games journalists, streamers, and YouTube creators, plus financial analysts and investors. And this was actually updated over the weekend.
Yeah, Saturday.
And the ESA has since released a full explanation and apology for the data leak. So it says, quote, the Entertainment Software Association, or the ESA, was made aware yesterday of a website vulnerability on the exhibitor portal section of the E3 website. Unfortunately, a vulnerability was exploited and that list became public. We regret this happened and are sorry. We provide ESA members and exhibitors a media list on a password-protected exhibitor site so they can invite you to E3 press events, connect with you for interviews, and let you know what they are showcasing. For more than 20 years, there has never been an issue. When we found out, we took down the E3 exhibitor portal and ensured the media list was no longer available on the E3 website. Again, we apologize for the inconvenience and have already taken steps to ensure this will not happen again. Well, it already happened.
Yeah. I feel like they're not taking as much of hit from, or they're not reacting to it as big as they should. For as much information of like their consumers were released, they're just like, my bad, and they removed the link.
Well, now that the link is removed, I think they're just doing as much as they can after the fact, because it's like, okay, well, the damage is done. There's nothing we can really do besides prevent more damage.
Yeah.
And I think they just kind of accepted that, well, there's not really anything we can do to fix the problem as it is, but we can course correct and prevent more damage from happening. So it's more or less damage control at this point than it is fixing the issue.
Right.
Which good on them for, doing as quickly as they did. But unfortunately with it being the internet, that stuff can go viral pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And a few journalists have gone on Twitter. I think Alana Pierce, formerly of IGN, I forgot where she's actually at now. But she mentioned something about I'll actually pull up the tweet, but she mentioned something about the possibility of the ESA being sued for something like this, like a class action lawsuit. If enough people actually come forward and say, hey, this isn't cool, we don't want this to happen again. And if someone were to actually file a lawsuit, there's not much that they can do. There's not much the ESA can do to defend themselves, at least.
No, I mean, there's going to be a lot of settlements if that happens.
Yeah, August 3rd, she tweeted out, ESA class action lawsuit when? So it's like, it's not a matter of whether or not it's going to happen. It's a matter of when it will. And she actually tweeted later on that day and said, quote, all right, folks, based on the amount of people who have messaged me about this, I'm going to start reaching out to lawyers myself. I'll keep everyone updated. She tweeted a few times August 3rd. This would have been when this article actually came out. Sorry, I'm just kind of going through the tweets. If you actually, that's she ended with, if anyone receives a letter or someone shows up to their home or work address, or basically anything other than just emails, phone calls, text messages occurs, please document it and contact me. That was the last thing that she actually tweeted. And that's the last tweet she actually has on her page right now, which is weird. She's gone silent since the 3rd. She might be focusing on this.
Lawyers probably. If she did reach out to a lawyer, the lawyer is silent until it's all figured out. Yeah.
So yeah, this is bad. It's a lot worse than I actually anticipated. I haven't actually looked at any tweets since writing this topic down for the podcast. So yeah, Alana Pierce is one of the people who are affected by this. She ran a couple panels at the E3 Coliseum. She was a journalist there. So it's like she is one of the people that are affected by it, and she is definitely taking steps, which she should, just like anybody else who is affected.
Mm-hmm.
She is just the one that I could think of off the top of my head that I remember seeing actually talking about it. But yeah, it's bad. The ESA is absolutely is most likely going to be sued, because this is serious. 2,000 people's home addresses were leaked, and a couple of those people have come out saying that not really specifically on this topic, but they've had issues with harassment and stuff like that. And it's like they've had stalkers because they are in the spotlight and there's weird people who obsess over them. And it's like, okay, now their address is leaked online. So how many people like that could have access to their home addresses? Like this is potentially dangerous.
Oh, for sure.
Like if the wrong people end up with their addresses, that could endanger their lives.
Right.
Especially,
I mean, look at last week's episode where we talked about people DMing people's front doors. Like this could just blow up completely.
Exactly. Like this, I mean, this is more on the journalist side, but journalists put their opinions out online and they get death threats for not liking a game or criticizing a game that people think was unfair criticism, but it's not. But like, I mean, there's people who disagree with them to the point where it's like, no, you're wrong, and I'm going to come to your house and kill you and stuff like that. And it's like, yo, you cannot do that. And now people like that could possibly have access to journalists' home addresses. So yeah, this is, oh my gosh, I haven't actually thought about this that deeply. This is a very, very serious situation.
Yeah, it's not good, which is why people are going to sue.
Yeah, the lawsuits are definitely going to happen. Which is unfortunate.
And I mean, like I said, she went silent most likely because the lawyer told her just to hold off.
Yeah. Yeah, she probably dropped out of the public spot. I mean, she could be going through something personal too, outside of the lawsuit, but she probably is busy with the lawsuit. Or she could have been silent because it was the weekend.
Right.
And it could be a number of things, but with the last few tweets being about the potential lawsuit, it probably is she contacted a lawyer and they said to stay silent for the time being. But
right, because I mean, Twitter is, courts can use it against you, so she has to be careful on what she says on, public websites.
Yep. Yeah. And I think she was being relatively not really silent, but just kind of backing off a little bit, like not sharing too many details, just being like, okay, if you have any. Actually, yeah, the last tweet was about, and of course I closed it now. The last tweet, I'll actually get a quote on that. So the last tweet she actually posted was, quote, if anyone receives a letter or someone shows up to their home address or work address, or basically anything other than just emails, phone calls, text messages occurs, please document it and contact me. So there's probably a bunch of people contacting her and she's been recording it.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's quite a few people who are doing that.
This is huge.
Yeah, so the ESA has quite a big mess to clean up.
Which is why I said, I mean, like you said, it happened, but they really just didn't take on the gravity of what happened when they were just like, we're sorry.
I mean, what else can they do other than that? The damage is done.
Show more empathy in their apology, I guess. It just doesn't seem like it just didn't seem like they were very
sincere.
Like they were just, it was very kind of like a corporate apology. It just, I don't know. Well, I don't run a corporation, so I don't know necessarily what needs to be done, but it seems very
dire.
How bad.
Yeah, I think because of how serious this is, I'm sure their own corporate team of lawyers probably said, okay, we need to be cool about this. Just issue the apology, explain that things are being worked on, and that's really all they can do at this point. The damage is done. Obviously apologize for what happened, take responsibility for it, but what else can they do besides wait for the lawsuit at this point? Which kind of it's a crappy situation because the ESA is the industry basically. The Entertainment Software Association is basically the front runner or the front lines of the industry itself. They're the ones who speak out when the industry is being attacked in certain situations. They're the ones who are on the front lines when the loot box controversy ended up coming out and legislation had to be put in place in a couple states and regions about the gambling thing.
Right.
Which I'll use this as a segue into the next topic, but the ESA does run the industry essentially. So when a controversy or legislation or the law has to get involved, the ESA are going to be the ones that represent the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So when something like this happens, it's like the people that represent the industry are responsible for something that happened in it. So it's like this is kind of it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else to say on that other than
No, I mean, I think they'll end up being fine. They're going to lose a lot of money in settlements, like I said, but they've been here for decades, so they'll be fine in the long run. It's just they just have to clean up this giant mess.
Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna take a couple years for this to get cleaned up. Because a class action lawsuit alone can take just to prep the trial itself could take a year or two,
right?
At least. You look back at the lawsuit, the class action lawsuit with the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con drifting, like it was filed in 2017, and we're just now seeing the repercussions of it. So it's like this could take even longer.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I'm sure this is going to be a story that comes out that's going to be talked about quite a bit over the next few years.
Yeah, we'll update every time we hear something.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll be sharing stuff online as well, or on like Facebook and Twitter and stuff. But it's definitely going to be something that's going to be continued to be talked about with the podcast as more gets detailed on it. But yeah, I guess we can wrap the topic up there. I'm sure we'll see more later on.
Speaking of loot boxes,
yes. So this is going to be a little bit of a larger topic. So we meant to talk about this last week while it was still fresh, but we kind of ran out of time. But we have more time today. So
yes.
There's been a bit of a controversy as far as gambling in games goes with Grand Theft Auto 5's new update. New being it came out. Yeah, it came out sometime like a week or two ago.
2 weekends ago, I believe. Okay.
So this comes from GamesIndustry.biz. Rebecca Valentine over at GamesIndustry.biz. The article is Grand Theft Auto 5 update adds a casino that can be played with real money. So it says Grand Theft Auto 5's latest update, the Diamond Casino and Resort, adds the titular casino to its fictional Los Santos, but lets players use real money to play its games. The BBC reports that the casino's chips can be purchased with in-game currency at $1 to 1 chip ratio. GTA 5's money can be either earned in-game or purchased with real-world money at a rate of $500,000 in GTA currency for $10 US. In addition, the casino only allows players to purchase $50,000 in GTA worth of chips per in-game day or real-world hour.
Yes.
So that's $50 of GTA money in one real-world hour. No GTA money or chips can be cashed out for real currency, which is notable, especially in light of the fact that earlier this week, meaning last week, when this article, or a couple weeks ago, this would have been the week of July 25th. Where was I? That earlier this week, meaning the week of July 25th, British MPs declared that FIFA's in-game player packs and loot boxes were not gambling because there was no legitimate way to monetize their virtual content after purchase. However, not every country sees it that way, as a number of countries have blocked the gambling minigames in GTA 5. This happened similarly in another Rockstar title recently, Red Dead Redemption 2. Unlike GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption 2 notably does not allow players to use real money to purchase its special gambling currency. So,
yeah, Yeah.
It's a pretty wild topic
Well, a
because of
lot.
gambling laws.
Yeah. Well, gambling law. I mean, I don't know too much about gambling laws because I'm not a gambler. So I
Yeah,
never
neither am I.
had the reason to look into it. But a lot of video games have, whether it's loot boxes or whatever. There's a lot of games where you spend real money to get something, like in-game purchases and add-ons and this and that, blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
The thing that
and
makes this, I think, the craziest, which I didn't even know this until you said it, like, is that you can turn your winnings back into real world money. I think that's insane. That's crazy.
well, no, you actually can't. I think that's
Oh, you can't.
right.
Oh, okay. I was like, what?
Yeah.
That's insane. Okay.
No, that would absolutely be straight up gambling. What makes this I think what makes it not gambling is the fact that you can't monetize anything after you've put your money into it. So like there's no way to monetize what you've won in game. Except there are like, I don't know if it's like black market deals or anything like that, but but there's people who sell like accounts with tons of money on it, or at least I remember it being a deal back in like the RuneScape and WoW days where people would actually sell high level accounts or high level characters to people on like eBay and stuff, and which is totally illegal. You cannot do that.
That's still, I mean, that's still kind of going on. Not necessarily with characters, but I know like Destiny, you can, and I'm sure other games too, but I specifically know for Destiny, like you can hire a person to run some sort of, run a mission or a raid or whatever, and you can like pay this person to do it so you don't have to, so that you can get the benefit of whatever the drop is for that specific thing. So like it's still happening.
Yeah, like I know I know in like there's some MMOs where you can actually sell the characters, not legally, but like you sell the accounts. That doesn't happen here. At least from what I've been seeing. But the idea is that like you can't, as far as the legality of it goes, you can't like monetize the actual stuff in GTA. So like that disqualifies it in most places for being gambling, at least from what I was getting. Because I know what they were just talking about with GTA money or chips can be no GTA money or chips can be cashed out for real world currency, which is notable because there was no legitimate way to monetize their virtual content after purchase, which disqualifies it as being defined as gambling, at least in the UK. But
yeah, and that's why the controversy is just because you don't have the option of getting real world currency back, it doesn't mean it's not still gambling. Like you're still putting real world currency into the game if you run out of chips.
Right.
You just don't get anything back.
I think that's where it becomes kind of a gross practice, because it's like, no, it's not technically gambling because of that one thing. Disqualifying it as gambling by definition is you're not earning anything back, but it's kind of exploiting that part of the brain, because it's still setting off dopamine when you win something, even though it's not real money. So they're exploiting that in order to get people to keep spending money in the game,
right?
Which makes them money.
Did you have you played this?
I haven't actually.
So I did play it when it first opened up a couple weekends ago. I had a friend, my friend Clock Tower was like, he's like, hey, I'm hopping on GTA. They have a new casino thing. You should hop on. I'm like, fine, why not? So I hopped on and, played around for a little bit, and it is fun. Of course, when I logged on, I don't know why, but the game was like, here's $1,050,000 just for you to play with. Maybe something that came with a previous update. I just never got it until now. But so, I had a lot of in-game currency. But yeah, you go to the casino and it's really nice. It's how they set it all up, and you have your slots area. There's an area for you to do like horse racing gambling. They have tables set up, and then they also have high stakes tables set up. So I did a lot of the tables. I did a couple of the slot machines, but just like, same as in real life. I think slot machines are weird and I don't really understand them. But I played like roulette, and I played blackjack, which I love blackjack, and I'm pretty decent at it. And exactly what you said, like it set off that chemical in my brain when every time I won with blackjack, I'm like, all right, let's go again. I got it. And I think I spent probably at least 10 grand in the game, and it was fun. But but that's in the game. So what makes it different, I think, for real life, at least for me, is that like I've actually been to a casino. It wasn't a great casino, mind you, but I have been to a casino in real life, and I think I spent maybe $25. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to lose any more money. I work hard for my money. I don't want to lose any more. But there's a lot of people out there who actually have trouble with that. And I think that's what gets them in trouble. Yeah.
I've actually heard a story about someone. I don't remember who told the story. I want to say it was one of the Game Grumps. I want to say it was Dan on Game Grumps, but I could be wrong. But I remember someone telling the story of their first experience with casinos, and they walked into one of the casinos in Las Vegas, and their first thing they heard was someone's wife yelling at them saying, "You gambled away our house."
Oh, shit. Oh, and sorry.
That was, I'll bleep that out.
That's insane, though.
And that was their first experience with casino, is they heard that come out of someone's mouth the moment they walked in.
Holy cow.
And that
I'd be like, okay, bye. Like, I think I just leave. I'm like, I can't do that.
And then he was like, well, I don't think I want to be here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
holy cow, that's insane.
Gambling has been kind of ruined for me because I understand the math. It's been a while since I've studied it, but I understand the math behind slot machines. And it's like they have to pay out like between 85 and 90% of what it takes in, which changes based on state laws and whatever. So like Vegas, for example, has like I want to say like an 87.5% payout rate. So like it has to pay out 87% of what it takes in, but
which is kind of a lot.
But where is most of that going to be? In the very, very rare jackpots, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, legally, pay out that much. But it's like most people are going to end up walking away. And then someone's going to win like a big chunk of that payout rate of somebody else's money. And they might either keep playing or they'll walk away with their winnings. So it's like it's all being redistributed out to a bunch of different people. Most people are going to lose all the money, and a small handful of people are going to be winning that money back and then walking away because, hey, I got lucky, I'm going to cash out. Or, hey, I got lucky, let's keep playing. Next thing they know, they lose their house.
I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, so it's I don't like most casino games because of just the randomness of it. I don't like it because it's like, this isn't fun. I'm just losing money for something that's completely out of my control. I'd rather spend money playing a game at an arcade that I have control over, even though I'm not going to get anything back. It's fun. Like playing Pac-Man, it's fun.
I mean, like if you go to like Dave, like so, like I went to Dave and Buster's for my birthday, and because I'm 28 and I can do that, don't judge me. But I went to Dave and Buster's.
Dope.
It is dope.
It's an arcade
but we went
with
there for
alcohol.
my birthday, right? And I had some, but we went to Dave and Buster's, and I think between my husband and I think our card was somewhere between $50 and $75. So it had a whole bunch of like credits on it. And we spent all of them. However, we also got like a lot of like return on like we didn't have physical tickets. They put the tickets on the card now.
Okay.
Which I thought was weird, but at the same time, it also gave you more hands to hold your drinks, so it's okay. But yeah, so like it's kind of like it's like a business. Like you look at it, you put money in, or you put money on something, like what's your return on investment going to be, your ROI? And so we put $50 to $75, however much it was, into our card of credits, and we got a whole crap ton of tickets back because we rock at games, and we went and cashed in our tickets and we got some cool stuff out of it. So like, did we win money back? No, but we got some sort of materialistic thing out of it, which was still kind of the same. So I don't know. I think it's cool. I mean, it's kind of its own gambling thing in itself, but at least there's some sort of return out of it.
Yeah. It's the same psychological, or it's the same sort of psychology formula. You pay and you win some stuff, and it changes depending on it's less, I think it's more or less addictive because it's not like you're not gambling it to win money. You're gambling it to win prizes, which is, I guess it really depends. It varies from person to person because it's still kind of the same process.
Right.
But
and the other thing too is that like when you go, we'll just say I spent $75. I don't think it was that much. Say you go to a casino, you can lose $75 like that in a casino. Whereas we went to Dave & Buster's, split $75 between two people, and we had fun for like 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So there's that too. Like you're also paying for the time of like having fun.
Yeah, and Dave & Buster's too is more an arcade, even though it has the gambling-esque or the casino-esque games like the token droppers or whatever they are.
Mm-hmm.
The Wheel of Fortune one, which I messed with the timing. That one's a pain in my butt.
My friend Chris is good at it. I suck at it. My friend Chris got it won a couple times though.
Treat the light like a metronome and just try and hit it on the beat. I
tried that, man, and I still suck.
It's all about, I think it's like we figured it out to where it's like if you press it, if you aim for like 3 lights behind the jackpot, you'll spin it almost every time if your timing is right.
Yeah, he was good at it. I was not.
But you aim for like 2 or 3 lights earlier than the actual thing. But anyway, there's games like that, which if you're there to win tickets, it's one thing. You practice those games and look for the best place to play, or work on mastering the Wheel of Fortune type games. But then there's just arcade games which don't have any ticket value, so like you don't win tickets back, but it's like you'll probably have more fun playing those because it's more like you're not expecting to win anything, right? So it's like you play the game just for the fun of it.
Right.
Just for the fun of it.
Yeah, just like an arcade. You go in, you pop in 50 cents and you play a game.
So you're playing and you're getting return investment on fun.
Right.
So it's like you're playing for fun, which is different, I guess, which is different than the whole gambling thing. So getting back into that, there's games there that do have that same sort of, I wouldn't say exploitation, because it's like you're not getting monetary return on it unless you sell the prizes, but no one's going to buy the prizes for any more than you could get them on at a store. So you're realistically, you're not getting anything back.
Right.
Unless you have value out of the things that you won. But I think what makes, I'm not sure if you would if that would be considered gambling or not. I mean, it is an 18 plus. No, it's not an 18 plus place. You can play those as kids.
Well, where? Dave and Buster's?
Yeah, Dave and Buster's.
No, because I'm pretty sure you can have like little kid parties there.
Yeah. So like there's gambling type games, or what could be considered gambling when looked at it from like the GTA perspective. GTA, kids can get their hands on that game. It's not technically illegal for them to play those games. Stores can't sell the game to kids under 17 just because store policy.
Right.
But it's not illegal for them to play those games.
I mean, if you have it set, this kind of, sorry to interrupt real quick, but like this kind of like just open up a whole new thing just because you are talking about kids. If your kid is playing it and there's not a credit card set up to the game, it doesn't necessarily, I mean, like they're just, I think it's more of them just going to have fun with the gambling. Yeah. And then it's fine because it's not like they're going to be like, oh crap, I ran out of money. I need to put some of my actual real life money in here to get more. Like there is none of that. So as long as there's not like a credit card set up, and that works for kids or adults, just don't set your credit card up. I mean, adults, I guess, have a harder time, but still.
Yeah, I think, well, even so, it's still a gambling game, even though the kid can't get more money on there. The kid's interacting with something that could be considered gambling. They are gambling games, and it's still setting their brain off like a regular gambling game would.
Yeah.
It's also been proven that a near win releases just as much dopamine as actually winning, if not more, because you get that excitement of, oh my god, I almost won.
I'm so close.
Rather than the payoff of actually winning, like, oh, I won, and that's relieving. But, oh, I was so close to winning, sets off even, I don't remember if it was more dopamine or the same amount. And that's dangerous for a kid to get involved in while their brain is still growing. If they're experiencing something like gambling, that could be a very serious problem.
I mean, at the same time, I mean, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I'm sure I've played games growing up, like all the mini games, and I played a lot of Legend of Zelda. So like a lot of mini games in Legend of Zelda, you have to pay the monetary, you have to pay rupees to play this game. And sometimes it's just for fun, and sometimes there's a treasure that you get to get at the end. But I mean, that's still gambling. Like, I still had to pay 20 to 50 rupees to shoot at all the targets with my bow and arrow.
I think...
And I didn't grow up to have a gambling issue.
I think that's less gambling because those are skill-based games. Your payout is determined by how well you play it, whereas casino games or gambling... The same thing
could be said about blackjack, though.
It's more... Blackjack is mostly random, though. There's some skill involved in, like, when to play when, or what. Let me back that up. There's some skill involved in, like,
when to pass, like all that stuff.
Right.
I just say there's roulette where it's going to land on red or black. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and that's going to become, that's entirely random. Blackjack, but blackjack, the main mechanic is drawing cards. Yeah, or not drawing cards. When you're playing cards, whether or not to hit or to stay is still dependent on a random mechanic.
Yeah.
So like,
because you don't know what card is coming next.
Exactly. Unless you're counting cards, which is illegal.
Right.
I'm
not Zach Galifianakis. I don't know how to do it.
There's a lot of math involved in it. But I mean, most casinos work around that anyway. They'll have just random decks or something, so you can't count cards.
Mm-hmm.
without knowing what deck they actually have or how many cards of what they actually have. But anything involving gambling, like in casinos, are mostly random games. Like I said, there's some skill involved in like poker is more about having a poker face and deceiving your opponent versus actually being good at the game.
Right.
The same could be said for blackjack. Blackjack might have a little bit less randomness than poker, but probably a little bit less randomness, I think, because you do have choice on what you do with your cards. I don't know. I don't play poker that often.
Yeah, I don't know how to play poker. I suck at it.
But it's like when you're looking at the game's design, when you take away a lot of the quote unquote skill, it is mostly random. So it becomes more gambling because you're taking a chance on something that's completely out of your control. So like you have no idea what card's going to come up. You have no idea what anybody else has. So it's like there's no way for you to help yourself win necessarily.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Zelda games are about skill. You're playing a game. It's like an arcade game. And if you want to defeat that boss, you put more money in and you play more and get more practice. And anybody could do it in a single run if, they're good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I kind of lost my train of thought.
I totally understand how GTA's casino is gambling. I mean, it's literally a casino.
Right.
However, I personally feel that loot boxes are scarier than a casino in GTA.
Well, in the casino, you know what to expect. For the most part, you expect to mostly lose money, but you're going to hopefully have fun while doing it.
Hopefully.
You should be expecting to lose money when you go into a casino. I think it's weird because when you're talking about loot boxes, it really depends on the game and how their loot boxes are set up. So, for example, Rocket League shows you what you will potentially get. It shows you these items are more commonly, you'll find these more commonly in this loot box. These are a little bit more rare, and these are ultra rare. If you get one of these, it's a super lucky payout. So it's showing you everything that's going to be in the box and how often they show up. So it's like you know what your odds are for the most part, even though you might not know the exact math. You know what to expect. I think the problem with the casino one is that it's going to exploit anyone that could have a gambling problem, or it exploits kids who probably shouldn't be playing those gambling games in the first place because they can't legally play them in real life. I think that's where it becomes an issue.
But in reality, if your kid has a mind developing age, I mean, should they really be playing GTA to begin with?
Nope.
Exactly.
And that's going to be more on the parent side. Like if this is a problem for you, then don't let your kid play GTA.
Exactly.
That's why the ESRB exists. That's why the game's rated M. But at the same,
if your kid grows up to have gambling issues because they played too much casino in GTA 5, whose fault is that?
I think that's something that the industry could end up getting in trouble for, because games like that are played by younger kids, and we have to accept the fact that it's not legally enforced. We have a rating system for parents to follow, but legally they are not obligated to follow it. So, if something has gambling in it, I think it needs to be talked about at the very least. So, like, there's the idea that the ESRB might be adding gambling mechanics to the ratings. So, like, for example, something like the ratings board. So like an M game could be rated M for things like violence or sexual themes or drug references. And now gambling could be another one of those things that determine its rating, which I think
which it should.
Exactly, it should be. Especially because gambling that's a legal thing. Like, if kids have access to a gambling thing through an M-rated game, then that absolutely needs to be enforced a little bit more. I don't think legislation really needs to get involved, but it's like, here's the ESRB rating. There's gambling mechanics in this. If you let your kid play it, that's on you, not us.
I'm going to go back to the loot box thing again. The thing with those, though, or like just in-app purchases in general, like in-game purchases, like you run out of chips on casino, you run to mommy and say, "Mommy, I ran out of chips, I need more." Mom's going to be like, no. Like, most likely she'll say no, unless you never know. But like, there are so many, like Rocket League or Fortnite or Minecraft, or there's games go on and on of games where you can, whether it's loot boxes or skins or additional guns or whatever. There's so many games that come with these additional things that you could spend so much money on for nothing, really, in reality. I know someone who spent and I'm not kidding, I know someone who spent almost $200 in a month on Rocket League because of the loot boxes and having to buy keys, and their investment did not have a good return. It was just kind of insane. They didn't get really what they wanted, but they still spent $200 real to try and get it. And I think if anyone's going to create a gambling addiction, it's going to be the loot boxes and the skins and this and that and whatever, where you are, you don't think as much about gambling, whereas you're actually walking into a casino.
Yeah, that's true. There's gambling elements in loot boxes that are more or less disguised. Maybe not necessarily on purpose, because it is a little bit. It's kind of fun when you buy something and it's like, ooh, what am I gonna get? But then when there's something specific that they want,
on purpose. It's just what is going to have that sort of reaction and what's going to actually have that impact on somebody's mindset. Nothing's on purpose.
Yeah, and speaking of skins, there's actually something called skin betting, which I guess by the sounds of it is where people will kind of, I don't know if they're selling skins or if they're finding a loophole in a way to actually sell objects like that. So there's actually there's an article I have here about the loot box controversy from gamesindustry.biz that details from the British Gambling Commission. But it's an article by Hayden Taylor over at gamesindustry.biz. And it says, British Gambling Commission, industry should be proactively dealing with skin betting. So I'll go ahead and read a large excerpt from this. But it says, a parliamentary inquiry has been told that large gaming companies should be doing more to prevent players selling on in-game items from loot boxes. Speaking at the latest Department of Media, Culture, and Sport inquiry into immersive and addictive technologies, British Gambling Commission Program Director Brad Enright laid out his reservations around loot boxes and skin betting, saying, quote, there is concern about the similarities with loot boxes and gambling and the chance-based mechanics, the mixture of expenditure, inviting rapid continual transactions. In our opinion, the video game industry has, in effect, left themselves open to these sorts of challenges because of the manner in which they presented these games, created these for commercial purposes, and then perhaps have not heeded entirely the guidance that we have issued in some circumstances. And he goes on to say, quote, where we have drawn the line is on the ability to turn loot box contents back into money through some mechanism. If it is possible through secondary markets or through a market offered during the game, we can see that would turn into gambling. We would take action in those circumstances, and we have done. Prior to this week's oral evidence session, the BGC submitted written evidence to the committee, which said, quote, "We are concerned that there are large video game companies who are failing to proactively enforce their own platform's terms of use to prevent in-game items being readily exchanged for cash." Committee Chair Damian Collins, MP, asked if the BGC representatives could name any particular companies that fail to enforce their own terms of service in this way, who said, quote, "Counter-Strike Global Offenses is probably the game we've received the most complaints about. We have had dialogue with Valve when we have drawn its attention to particular games where we have evidence of British consumers, including children, gambling on those sites. It has closed them down. What we have said is that is not a sustainable approach. We cannot be monitoring the internet every day looking for skins gambling website or exchange sites. Valve has created this situation, perhaps not intentionally, but the situation has been created by the commercial model it has built and done very well out of. Therefore, we think there is an onus and responsibility on it. It should be proactively dealing with this. As it currently stands, then, FIFA loot boxes do not constitute gambling in the UK. While the BGC is aware of ad hoc examples of real money gambling through secondary sites, Enright said he was satisfied there is, quote, "sufficient ongoing proactive effort by EA to prevent players gambling through these sites." So there are sort of backdoor sites that do sell like skins and stuff that could be from the loot boxes.
Mm-hmm.
There's sites that kind of exploit that and do sell items like that. I don't think at least that was the example with Valve and Counter-Strike, is people could sell that stuff, and I've even seen videos on kind of how that worked. This was a while ago though. But it sounds like they've been trying to shut down those sites as they pop up. I don't know if GTA has sites like that, but I'm sure that's something that people can look into as far as the loot box thing, or not GTA, but loot boxes in general, or any game that has loot boxes. So like Rocket League or Overwatch, I guess. Games like that have randomized loot boxes that don't have monetary value returns in the items themselves. But if there are backdoor sites existing that is able to sell that stuff, that becomes gambling, and that becomes very dangerous, especially if it's a game that can easily get into the hands of kids. It's a touchy topic, obviously, because it's like, where do we draw the line? Where can it be defined as gambling, and where can it be defined as just a random mechanic?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I don't know, man. I just know people are spending money. That's all I know.
Yeah, I think, I mean, when you look at the psychology behind it, it can be the same as gambling, because it is releasing those. It's kind of exploiting that same addictive loop where you put money in and it's random, and you get really close to winning a cool item, or you get a cool item, and that becomes an addictive loop because it does release dopamine. So it's like it exploits the psychology behind gambling to make money, but at the same time, it is random objects that you are, in the case of Rocket League, you can see what your potential is in those loot boxes. You can see the rarer items, you can see the medium items, and you can see the items that aren't as rare and you'll most likely get. You can see each of the items that are in the box and their rarity. So it's like, you know what you're paying for, whereas if you were to see the payout of a casino game, it would probably turn you off. Because you're seeing actual monetary value. If you saw the odds of winning, you probably wouldn't play, right?
Yeah, like one in a million, basically.
Even less than that, honestly. Well, in the case of slot machines, it's even less. I can actually find the numbers for it if I know where to look. Odds of winning a slot machine, and this could go pretty much anywhere. It's just showing the percentage. It's always under 100%. Otherwise, casinos would make no profit, and often near 90%. So somewhere between 90 and 100%. The slot machine above would return 97.5% to players in the long run. However, we rarely know the odds of slot machines. So it really, really does depend on the slot machine itself, but they're not going to release, you have a 1 in 2.5 billion chance of actually winning the jackpot, because no one would play if they knew what the odds were.
Right.
But
I don't know. I think just the thing that kills it for me is that, like, in the end, they are all kind of the same. You walk in a casino and you spend however much money and you lose it and it's done. That's it. Whereas gambling or loot boxes or whatever in video games, just video games in general, you spend all this money on your video game for whatever reason, and it's all for something that you might not even be playing in 3 months' time.
Yeah. And it does kind of...
So while there is that the whole return on investment and the investment being, fun, I do get that. But still, there's, come 6 months, are you still going to be playing fill in the blank?
Yeah. I think in the case of Rocket League, I like the loot box system, but I'm not a particular person that has a gambling problem. I do have an addiction kind of runs into the family, but it's like I've never been turned on by gambling itself. Like, I've never been turned on by casino games or anything like that, because it's like they aren't fun. It could also be the designer in me. I understand the mechanics behind the gambling games, so it's like it kind of ruined it for me, because now I realize that you don't actually have control over any of these. You just think you do because of there's rules and stuff that you think you have control over, when in reality it's totally random.
Right.
Which kind of ruined casino games for me.
I mean, it could just be like a whole mindset thing. I mean, like I said, when I went to a casino in real life, I didn't want to let go of my money because I know how important it is. Whereas someone who either doesn't give a crap because they have a lot, or someone who just doesn't understand the value of money, I mean, they could just walk in and have it all be gone and be like, whoops. You know what I mean?
Or they're totally deceived by the casino thinking that they could win. That's exactly how casinos are designed.
Right.
There's no sunlight or anything that gets in, so that you never know the time of day. And the whole casino is basically just one giant dopamine drip, pretty much, because you've got all these flashing lights, these cool flashing lights, and positive sounding audio coming from all the machines. Every time a jackpot is won, you get that giant bell ringing, and that sets off something in the brain, like, ooh, that means that someone's winning a big amount of money. All of a sudden you get a little bit more bold, and it's like the whole casino aesthetic is designed to keep you engaged. And that's exactly what becomes the problem. Unless you're able to see past all of those elements, it's really easy to get caught up in that fantasy of, holy crap, I could win millions here. The possibilities are endless. So it's like,
it's the same as buying a lottery ticket.
Yeah. But like, when you're able to see past all of that, you realize that there's no way to actually control whether you win or not. So just set a limit and have fun. Gamble with $50 and that be your main limit. Don't go past $50. Right. If you run out of $50, that's it. That's game over.
Right. Because when we walked into the casino, we were like we were talking between my husband and myself. We're talking like, okay, what's the limit? We're not going to go over. And then once I once we started, like I said, I spent like maybe $25. I was like, nope, this isn't. It's just not for me.
Yeah. Which
in real life, like I said, I had a lot of GTA 5. I spent like probably $10,000, but that's not real money.
Right, it's not real money. And it feels safer because you're not spending real money. I'm probably going to end up looking for books on the psychology behind gambling because I want to know more about this from that aspect. But there was one more article defining this, and this went a little bit more into the actual law behind the whole GTA thing. I think that's where the controversy kind of opened up, and this is from a freelancer at IGN, Alicia Judge. This is from July 25th. So again, this was a couple weeks ago when this whole topic was all over the news. But the article is titled "Gambling Laws Appear to Block GTA Online in Over 50 Countries." So the article reads, "Stringent local laws appear to be blocking Grand Theft Auto Online players in over 50 countries from gambling in the new Diamond Casino update. The update went live yesterday, which was July 24th, but some players soon received in-game notifications that they didn't, quote, have permission to buy gambling chips to use in the virtual casinos. Reddit users are reporting that they are able to go inside the casinos, but they are blocked from purchasing betting chips. One user wrote, quote, I launched and headed straight for the building and wanted to buy myself some chips for the games. After contacting support, I received a quick reply that because of my region, I cannot enjoy the gambling-related content. It's wide-ranging, including China, North Korea, Iceland, Cyprus, and Poland. In the comments, some of these international players now say they are using VPNs. However, that could land them in trouble with Rockstar or their country's legal system. The decision to block access to virtual casinos raises interesting questions around loot boxes, which are legally available in some of the countries that Rockstar has blocked. One user wrote, quote, so far, no reason for the thing to be blocked in my country, which was Argentina. We have loot box mechanics freely available, and so are microtransactions. I don't see how buying chips in Diamond Casino is illegal. So the other controversy was just how many just the complexity of gambling laws all over the world makes this whole update just a giant mess. Like, I think it's less about just the gambling itself, but just how complex the gambling laws are around the world and just how different they can be. Even if just small differences in those laws, or just how they're what's the word?
I don't know.
How they're enforced.
Okay.
How they're enforced. So it's like, it's all different things. So it's like 50 different countries have like a bunch of different gambling laws that ends up being blocked in those countries, even though they're allowed to use loot boxes and microtransactions. The gambling games are blocked. So it's like this giant update caused quite a controversy just for the fact that all of those different laws blocked certain countries from using them, even though their laws allow loot boxes and stuff. So it's like, it's such a complex issue that it's like something needs to be done to level it out, I guess.
What they would need to do.
I don't know.
I mean, it's the same thing. I'm obviously not kids.
Right.
But if you have a gambling addiction, whether you are aware of it or not, I think for like the video games defense, like, what's stopping you from spending a bunch of money in a video game, just as what's stopping you from walking into a casino in real life?
Right.
So, I mean, there's not, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's not really much they can do.
Right. Yeah. Well, plus,
like I said, obviously not for kids because it's 18 plus, but still.
Yeah, kids can't just walk into a casino, obviously, and start gambling money away. But I think that's where the issue is with the game, is they can do that. And I think if gambling becomes more of an actual mechanic that's placed in the list of determining mechanics that set the rating of the game. So like if it has loot boxes, if it has something that could be considered gambling from whether it's a psychology perspective or a legal perspective or whatever might determine it, if it's close enough to gambling, it could be added to the rating system. So like if it's close enough to having gambling mechanics in the game, it's going to be rated M for that specifically.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that parents need to open their eyes to and pay attention to. If there's gambling mechanics in the game, do not let your kids play them, because that's going to exploit their growing psychology, and that could make them more prone to a gambling addiction later in life. Possibly. I don't actually know. I'm not a...
Yeah, I mean that's a whole different subject in itself of being a parent now with how video games are. Like, I mean, like I remember speaking to my mom about it, like how she raised me is going to be 100% different from how I have to raise my future kids. Like,
it's a whole different...
just because it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. But me personally, while I will obviously allow my children or child or however many I end up having, like I will obviously allow them to play video games. But when it comes to the whole online versus ratings, that's just something that I personally will probably withhold.
Yeah. Well,
because there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation, because like the ESRB can't really rate based on online, because the online communities of different games can be so unpredictable that it's like it's impossible to keep track of something like that for a specific game, and how the online is going to react, or the online community is going to react to it, what kind of, how much toxicity there's going to be in that community. It's like, so the ESRB, the ratings board, can't attest to or rate based on the online community, just because they have no control over that specifically.
Right.
So like, I think every game now, on the back of a box or something, it says something about, the rating has nothing to do with the online community, and they are not in control or at fault or whatever for anything that happens online. So they can't attest to the language that's being used online. They can't really do much about,
which is the major thing.
Yeah. Which I think maybe there's something they could probably do in the future, but with technology at where it's at right now, there's really nothing you can do other than just make sure that you're careful of who your kids are interacting with online, even in online game communities. Like, if you're worried about that, then turn online off, and have them play locally.
Right.
But it's like,
because like I said, like we both said, this is a big subject in itself, but like, I mean, one of my examples is I was getting my nails done a few weeks ago, and one of the clients there brought in her kids, which is fine. I'm not talking about that, but one of the kids, like he was all Fortnite out. He had like a Fortnite shirt. He was carrying around like the llama, like a stuffed animal llama. He had his Switch with him. Like, he was all Fortnite out. Which is fine that he likes Fortnite. However, this kid was like 6, maybe 7, which is a whole other Fortnite thing for me, but whatever. But the fact that there's a 6 or 7-year-old playing Fortnite, and if he's online in chat with people, like, I can't even imagine the things that he's being told or what he's hearing, and then that's when he learns to copy and say it themselves. And if I ever heard I've been told by like a 13-year-old that they effed my mom, last week. I'm like, okay, that's good for you, buddy. But but it's like if every time I hear like a say these things, I'm like, come on. Like, when I was that age, like, I was still into Spice Girls and Pokemon, and
That was a
Like
whole.
it's insane.
It's like you said. It's a whole different world now. Ever since the online age started, it was like kids now are in a completely different world than us, and that includes the whole loot box craze and the talks about gambling in games and how those mechanics could mirror stuff like that, and the fact that even if it's not considered gambling, it's still exploiting that same psychological process of winning something that feels good, and it's like it exploits that same sort of. I guess it could be considered a physiological one because you are feeling something. So like a physiological process, it exploits that physiological process of winning something. What happens in your brain, and you get this gut feeling. Your hands start sweating. You might feel a little bit of a chill, and it's like that's all a physical feeling as well as a psychological one from winning something.
Yeah, your heart starts beating a little bit faster because you're about to win or whatever. Right. Yeah,
and that can be that can become an issue when you look at the physiological aspects of something like that. And like I said, I need to read up a little bit more on that side of gambling, but as far as I know, that's pretty much what's happening when you hit a near win or you win something at a game, or which is cool when it's a skill-based game that you're not really getting much return other than the intrinsic value of holy crap, I just did it. I just beat that boss, or I finally got past that level. Which is rewarding because that's a challenge that you yourself overcame. It wasn't a random thing that you were gambling with. It was something that you practiced for and worked hard at, and it's yeah. But when it comes to the randomness, it's like it's somewhat an exploitation of that, but at the same time, it's like it's cool to have that stuff, but we need to be more cautious about it, especially with the age groups that do get their hands on it. I think this could be good in the long run, like investing time to discuss stuff like this, because it is a new age, and this stuff should be examined because we don't want the industry to get in trouble for something like this, especially when
it's something that's not really their fault.
It's not necessarily. I wouldn't say it's necessarily their fault, but at the same time, the industry needs to take responsibility for it because it is something that's happening within it.
Yeah, as long as they cover all the bases, as long as they, cover their, as long as they cover their bases, that's all they can do.
I mean, that's the reason the ESRB was created in the first place, was the whole violent games controversy back in the 90s. The industry just decided, okay, well then why don't we make rating system? That way we don't want legislation to get involved. So let's just make something to what's the word?
Help differentiate between different games.
To regulate itself. So the ESRB was created to make a ratings board. So now parents have something to look at when looking for games for their kids. If it's rated E for everybody, it's a safe purchase. If it's rated M, maybe look into why it's rated M first. If you can determine whether your kid is mature enough to handle something like that, that's up to you, but the industry cannot take responsibility for that if you screw your kid up.
Exactly. I mean, I worked at GameStop for a small amount of time, but in that small amount of time, I cannot tell you how many kids brought their parents in to buy a rated M game where I feel like they just shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, my parents would not let me play M-rated games. That was a rule that absolutely could not be broken. When I was 13 or 14, they started to step off that pedal a little bit. And I was able to play like Halo or Call of Duty or something like that. We still weren't allowed to play stuff like GTA or anything like that, but like they kind of decided that we were mature enough at that point to handle games like that. But even then, online wasn't as big as
online wasn't a thing, really.
I mean, it was a thing. It was more like
Well,
on my
yeah, I mean, you're a couple years behind me, but still.
Right. Well, yeah, I was a couple years behind you.
But yeah, no, I mean, we grew up the same way. I mean, we grew up with Nintendo. So, I mean, that itself, look at all Nintendo games, there's not really any violence, except for, like, when you hop on a Goomba's head or, you know, take down Ganondorf. I mean, like, there's, like, those kind of things.
It's more or less cartoon violence.
Yeah, it's not like there's no gore or anything, like when you played Doom.
Right.
So, like, we played that kind of stuff. And then I think in 2003-ish is when we got a PlayStation 2. Or 2002? I don't remember. We had two, so it was a little while before we even had, like, something that wasn't Nintendo. And even then, like, we had Kingdom Hearts, we had Dance Dance Revolution, and stuff kind of like that. So still no games. Like, we weren't allowed to, like, even if we went to a friend's house, it was, like, highly, like, advised, like, don't play GTA or anything like that. Even though I will say, my mom knew about it. I will say, though, that at one point my dad, he put Wolfenstein on the PC. And he was like, hey, Jessica, come this out. And so I did play a little bit of Wolfenstein. I thought it was just the coolest thing. But it wasn't like, I wasn't like addicted to it or playing it like nonstop. It was just, I mean, it was just a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Probably until my mom yelled at my dad. But yeah, and then I didn't have my first Xbox until Troy, my husband, he gifted me an Xbox when we first met. So I didn't have, like, the household didn't have an Xbox until 2011. So we didn't really have Halo or Call of Duty or anything growing up.
Yeah. I think the most violent game that I actually had growing up would have been Sarge's Heroes, which was an old Army Man game, which was rated T. We absolutely could not play any rated M games, but there wasn't any blood or gore.
Yeah, we had some T. Yeah.
Yeah. There was no blood or gore in that game. When you got shot, you just saw pieces of plastic fly off them rather than blood, which I thought was kind of creative. Looking back on it, but anything that would have been like gunshot wounds and stuff were basically just holes in plastic. That was kind of the aesthetic of that game, but
yeah,
that was probably one of the more violent games we had, other than we played a wrestling game, which you could turn gore on, but we were too young to figure that out. Or you could turn on realism so that if you beat someone up enough, they start bleeding, but even then, it wasn't super graphic. They would just get some red on their face, and that was about it.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, graphics, too, now are completely different from what they used to be. So when somebody bled back then, it was just like pixels of red.
Yeah.
Versus now where you can actually see someone's head being blown off.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
And the gore.
There's that whole aspect, too.
Yeah, and the gore that's underneath. Depending on the game. Sometimes it's just blood, but... I mean, if you play the new Doom, then you see everything. Let's rip this guy open and see exactly what
my friend Clock Tower pre-ordered it, and he pre-ordered the special one, so he gets the helmet. He's super excited.
My gosh. And you can wear that.
That'll be interesting.
That's like a straight up actual helmet.
It's wearable.
I love that they did that at E3. Guess what? It's wearable, and someone's wearing it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's stoked. But yeah, I mean, like I said, as long as the games industry covers their bases, whether it's gore or gambling or nudity, whatever, as long as they cover their bases, they can only do so much. It's just up to the parents and everything at that point. So
yeah, I think.
And if your kid turns into a jerk and is addicted to gambling and hookers, kind of goes on you on that point.
Yeah, I think as long as the industry covers its bases, like you said, kind of like what they did back in the 90s, creating the ESRB to self-regulate the industry. I'm sure the ESA will eventually do something about this, because it is causing a controversy, to get so that we can avoid legislation getting involved. But the ESA is going to have quite a bit on their hands for the next couple of years, it sounds like, with the whole media leak and the whole gambling controversy growing.
Plus some violence in games now, but we're not going to talk about that.
It's just the same. It's honestly just kind of the same circular argument that keeps happening since the 90s, but we're not going to get into that. But yeah, the gambling thing, I think the ESA will probably end up doing something about that as we know more about it. But yeah, the whole gambling thing, I think right now it's just going to be an added mechanic to the list of rating determining aspects in games. So like gambling might just be another thing among, nudity or strong violence or strong language, stuff like that determine whether a game is M or T. Gambling is just going to be another one of those. Pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that covers all our bases as far as the whole gambling thing that's been coming up in recent weeks.
Yes.
For
now.
Yeah, for now. I'm sure it'll come back around. But yeah, I think that covers all the major topics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this weekend I finished playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the first DLC, the Legacy of the First Blade. At least is the story of it. That was pretty much all I played all weekend. I played I want to say I put in like 8 hours of that over the last few days. I was really into it, and I just decided to take a couple days just to play it and relax a little bit.
Yeah.
But I finished that. I've been doing some side quests on that. That's really all I was playing. I meant to play other games, but I was super into that this weekend. So,
I mean, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's nice to get into a game.
Yeah, it's the first time I actually took time to get super into one. But yeah, that's the gist of what I've been playing. What have you been playing?
Well, this weekend I had a wedding. I was kind of out of commission, I guess, video game wise for a little while. But Sunday I played what did I play? I played some more Breath of the Wild, and I actually almost have every single side quest finished, which is kind of insane. And I found every single shrine, all 120. So I've almost 200% of this game, which I've never 200% a Zelda game before. So I'm pretty excited about that.
So 200%ing a Zelda game, that's 100%ing it 2 times, right?
It's so like 200% for what I believe 200% is like 100% is like storyline.
Okay.
So like 100% is just completing the game. And then the additional 100% is like side quests and like all the additional kind of things. So like side quests and additional, because you don't need to find all the shrines to beat the game.
Right.
So shrines, and then there's things called like Korok seeds, which is a whole other thing. So I have to find all of those, and basically if you do every single thing in the game, 200%.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm almost at that point, which is pretty exciting. So I did that, and I played some Minecraft with my friends. We had a who's calling me? Husband. We had a server going, and then we hopped on it actually yesterday, and I'm like, Chris, I'm actually good if we want to start a new one, which we've only been on that server for, I don't know, 2 weeks. We started another one last night because we're like vets at this game, so like we go through it and we do a whole bunch of stuff, and then we get bored, and then we start a whole new thing. So I'm actually probably gonna hop on that later today just to continue going with it.
Yeah. So, have you played anything else other than Zelda and Minecraft, or tried to play anything?
Well, like I said, I played GTA. Oh, I started Life is Strange episode 3.
Oh, okay.
Just barely started it.
Gotcha.
So, this is spoiler free, but I just got to the point in episode 3 where they just got home from their work at the farm.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And they had their little campfire, and they just went to bed in the tent.
Okay. Yeah, that's
as far as I got.
That's a fun episode. It's kind of nice. It's just kind of
I was surprised a little bit of the nudity.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it is is it rated M or is it rated T? I don't remember.
Probably T. I mean, it's probably T. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it's just it was the girl. She just had her top off.
Yeah.
She was up, going to shower. But I was like, whoa, hello. It was just like caught me by surprise a little bit because I just wasn't. I mean, from everything else you've seen with Life is Strange, I just wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was done fine. Like, it wasn't like distasteful or anything. It was just like, hello.
Yeah, it was just someone happened to have their top off. That's about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a really, really good episode. And then the next one comes out in a couple weeks, so I'm excited for that. Yeah, just
that's why I gotta take my time.
Yeah, you'll have to text me when you finish that episode because you just have to tell me when you finish it.
Yeah.
Because I want to know how your episode ends. But yeah, that'll be that's a good one. But yeah, I can't wait for that next episode. Yeah, I think that's about it for the podcast. You can find me on Twitter at Strobe Official. That's STROBBE Official, all one word. You can email the podcast, so you can email us for like feedback or corrections and anything that we said on any of the topics at bigslicegames@gmail.com. And you can find me. I have a bunch of links for the podcast on a pinned tweet on my Twitter, so you can find its location everywhere on there too, or in the show notes. But Jessica, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at PhoenixLeeJS. So Phoenix as in the city, Lee Lee and J. Or you can find my photography. I have all social media accounts for that. It's JL Boone, BOONE Photography.
Sweet. Yeah, and all of those will be in the show notes in the YouTube description as well. But thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Thank you.